I am Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
The original counter downer.
That's exactly right. Oh, Cleve in the house. Appreciate you could join us again there, Cleveland. 101? Is this 101?
It is 101.
Wow.
Guess
How about
what?
that?
How appropriate, since it literally is 101.
Yeah,
It
that's
is
right.
It
He's
is
the
hot.
first guy.
It is hot. There's Toxic drinking out of some kind of thermos Stanley,
That's
maybe.
Stanley. Have you seen those thermoses?
Yeah,
those
what?
are hey,
They're amazing.
better in Bottomland. Look at that thing.
It's supposed to be for coffee, but it's great for everything.
I bet it is.
Well, these times, you need cool water now, too.
Where can a guy get one of those in Bottomland?
It's Stanley.
Yeah, Stanley.com.
Wherever Stanley products are sold, which is a lot of places.
It is.
Yeah, that's like the trendiest thing right now, this 40-ounce mug.
Yeah, my daughter has one, and she had to get on a waiting list to be able to get one from them, but the coolest mug ever, and it keeps stuff hot all day or cold all day. This is pretty amazing. You can, like, if you're going to be outside, like we're doing right now, like we're doing some spraying,
Sweat.
some working. Yes. It's dangerous. Just throw 1 or 2 ice cubes in this thing. In the morning, it stays cold all day long. So that's kind of my go. Plus, it's sealed over. You can put it in the dishwasher and all. So it's definitely my go-to.
I'm going to have to get that 40-ounce.
Yeah, and for me, I got a relatively new pickup for the first time in 10 years, and it's spill-free.
What? No way.
My other one smelled like coffee a month into it, so
I guarantee you.
it's pretty handy.
It'll also make a good martini shaker in a pinch.
There you go.
Well, look, guys, let me start. Well, welcome to West Point, Mississippi, home of Mossy Oak Brand Camo, the Gamekeeper Studio, episode
All
101 here.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, we're real excited. And
I can't believe we had this much to talk about. No, I know we do.
well, look, before we get started, we got some great guests, and I'm going to introduce them in just a second. But, Jason, the winners have been I'd like for you to announce the winners by name. They already know what
they won?
Yeah, let's tell the world who won.
Yeah, they've all been contacted, all replied. So
nobody didn't claim their prize, so we had nothing left over.
They all claimed it that
It's
morning.
exact
Golly.
day. So
That's good.
it was pretty good. So the grand prize, the A5, was Bennett Wilson. The $250 gift card for Gamekeeper Fieldwear was Justin Carr. The Leopold sunglasses was Josh Levy. Russell moccasins was Terrell Singleton, and the Gunner Kennel was Elliot Anderson.
Man, good winners.
They were all excited.
Well, good.
Yeah.
That was fun to do.
Yeah. So,
Those are some great products and great brands. Oof.
No doubt about it.
yeah, I totally agree. And so, well, while we're moving forward, Richie, our guest Bronson has lost his contact. So if you can work on restoring Bronson's contact, I'd appreciate that while we keep.
Well, he might
moving
just have
here.
to
Yeah,
come
the
back
legal
on.
disclaimer one more time. It's not from my gun safe. It's from Browning, directly from Browning Arms. So I don't get in trouble for, Bobby's trying to get me in trouble.
Hey, that might get that.
Just
Someone
having fun.
registered or whatever.
They
It's
get him on the
directly
straw
from
balls law.
our good friends at Browning.
Yes, it
Yeah.
Made it possible.
Browning makes safes.
Yes, they do.
They make some good looking.
They make all
safes, so.
kind of good gear.
Well, we're
Iconic
having fun
outdoors.
with it. It's a brand new gun, unfired. Toxie's never touched it, as a matter of fact. So, and let me just tell you, that's probably a really good
Yeah, it's
thing.
new in the box.
Never misses the chance.
Can't believe it, man.
Yeah. Okay. So, Jason, I just want to congratulate you. That was the best run contest we've ever done.
Sure was.
Absolutely.
Give the man the horn.
That's
Yeah.
what you tell everybody, Bobby.
Go Jason.
Yeah, we sure appreciate you, Jason McKellar. So, what else have we got to cover, Laney?
I'm just kind of in a whirlwind over here. It is game keeping season. So, it's a whirlwind
It is.
around here. We're thinking,
Ooh.
I can't even keep my mind straight, which is, hard for me to do anyway.
It's impossible.
It's impossible to do, especially this time of year. So
Toxie, what are you doing right now?
Move it or lose it time of year.
Yeah, are you
Preparing to drain the swamp and
praying for rain at the same
finishing
time.
up on some crop stuff we planted for doing a little clover spraying. We're trying to get some timber cut, but that's up to timber cutters and lumber mills. So that'll help.
Pretty
Actually,
difficult right now.
Yeah,
Getting somebody to
but
show up.
we've got it lined up, but it's just like all in good time. You can't make that happen like
No.
exactly when you want to.
No doubt about it.
But the biggest thing I stress over is like the whole waterfowl thing, because I mean, The turkeys, the deer, and we just got through. Either we hatched them or we didn't on turkeys, and we're going to have a good fawn crop. We always do. But if you miss out on a bunch of food and
if you don't
all the happy grounds for your waterfowl, you miss them and you have to retrain them. It goes backward. They're migratory. We borrow them from somewhere else. So I'm just always.
So duck season begins in July here.
Yeah. Yeah. I usually have made myself a note. I don't really do, other than maybe if we plant some corn or milo, that has to get in earlier. The more soil stuff, don't even touch it till up in the middle of July. So my, turn the page is always July 4th. Don't even think about it till then.
Yeah.
So,
and we try to get it in there between then.
This year's going to be different. I mean, moisture preservation may be a giant thing this year. So whenever we can plant God's choice in the mud,
that's when we want to do it.
Yes, and I'm excited. We've got a little tweak in the formulation this year for the first time in a while. I'm pretty excited about this. I think it's going to be a demonstrably better product. I really do.
Demonstrably.
Yeah.
That's
using
good.
one of those big
words like
graduate degree words.
It's like indubitably.
Yeah.
Heck of a lot better product.
Well, I'm glad to see you excited about something. I mean,
I stay excited about it.
Now, he's always pumped about that's
the only problem is there's too many things to get excited about. It kind of
focus your excitement. Kind of
you
tough.
get flooded.
So before we bring on our guests, I got one more piece of business that we need to tend to. And Richie, have you got a commercial for us?
Let's see here. Well, I guess commercial wise, did you guys hear what Riley did last night?
Riley.
Oh, it was incredible. Riley from our warehouse took a AR. I think it was a Springfield AR, one of their black guns, with an ATN scope. And he got in a mess of pigs.
Did he wear them out?
And the footage, we'll have to share it on Instagram. But look, there were probably 15 pigs, and he shot 17 times. And when it was all over with, there were 3 dead pigs.
Oh, well.
One dead.
I was thinking, well, 3's better than 1.
So I'll say this. He killed 3 pigs with the first 4 shots.
Yeah.
Or he hit 3 pigs with the first 4 shots. The next 14 shots, I don't know where they went.
I know the feeling, Riley.
Yeah, that next 14 sounded more like the Riley I'm used to.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, look, but the footage, Richie, being a TV producer, did you get
So he recorded this on his ATN scope.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
You can record internally on SD, a micro SD card there on the scope. And so it's full 1080, full HD. It's some really good footage.
Riley is gonna make Instagram.
Yeah, he is. What do you remember?
The technician.
Oh yeah. I like it. Riley, the technician.
What scope was that?
So it was an ATN Excite 4K 5 20 power.
Well,
well, of course it is.
It's incredible. So, but look, guys, if y'all would go to atncorp.com and check that out. If you've got pigs, look, we're going to talk about the ultimate solution for pigs.
Yes, we've been waiting on this for years. I'm glad we're talking about it today.
This is something a guy can do. In the meantime, I always thought we'll save that for later. But
all these, for lack of a better term, night vision scopes and such were always out of reach. It's like buying a new car, and now they're very much in reach.
Yeah.
And ATN makes scopes and binoculars
really
and everything.
And rangefinders. So, yeah, I'm excited. Toxie, you've got one. I'm excited to get to hear some feedback from you later this summer when you get active doing that. So, all right, guys, thank you, Richie, for that. atncorp.com. Y'all check them out. They're great folks. So, look, today we're going to talk about something that interests all of us and many of our gamekeepers, especially ones here in the South. But
the plague.
We've got Dr. Glen Gentry that is with us. Richie, if we could. There we go. He's from LSU. He's from the AG Center at LSU, and he has worked the last 10 years to develop a toxicant or a poison, if you will, for wild pigs, feral swine. And this is, I think we'll get him to tell us a little bit more about it. But Glenn, thank you for being here.
Quite welcome. I always like to try to share what we're doing down here.
Well,
LSU.
Well, it's, you're the first person we've had from LSU on. We've had a lot of different schools. And also joining us is Bronson Strickland. Now, Bronson, are you still there?
I'm here.
You got a deer behind you, Bronson. Look out. You're getting charged.
Bronson is actually at the beach.
He doesn't look like it. It looks like he's in the Midwest somewhere.
And what a warrior and a friend to our podcast to make time at the beach to join us. Bronson, we appreciate that.
Well,
happy to, Bobby, anytime.
If he's anything like how my family does the beach, we go out in the morning, and about now, when it's too hot, we come back and
it's
eat,
miserable.
take
It's
a
miserable.
break, and then
The 10 to 2
go
nap
back
time.
out. So anyway, I hope that's what's going on.
The family just came in and made homegrown tomato and bacon sandwiches. And
Man, you're making my stomach growl.
Man.
Oh yeah, had the good
Give it the whole horn.
Yeah, that's
21
great.
gun salute for those.
Yeah.
My favorite.
Well, we're eating some peach cobbler from Chilton County Peaches. Am I right?
That's
Chilton
right.
County.
That's right.
You went hand pick these peaches.
Hands foraged.
He brought
them.
me
Foraged
some.
them.
Foraged.
You are.
Oh, let's quit. Let's get to Glenn. Glenn,
Yes.
can
We've
you-
been. I mean, I think we've been hearing about this for several years now, right?
Yeah. So, Glenn, what is the status of this poison?
Well, we started probably 18 years ago working on developing a toxicant using sodium nitrite. And that's something that the feds are really interested in because it's really environment friendly. It reacts with the environment. It doesn't give you the pyramid effect that you see with other pesticides. And we've incorporated into our bait matrix, which is basically fish meal. And we can dehydrate aging carp and use it in our bait. And some people have suggested we might be able to use one invasive species to control another. So we're on the cusp. We're ready to start some EPA trials. And it works. The pigs will die in about 2.5 to 3 hours if they get a lethal dose. If they don't get a lethal dose, they'll come back the next night and do it all over again. So it's very humane. It doesn't hurt the pig. They're not shy from it. So we're really excited about where we are right now when we're fixing to try to start our EPA trials to go on the route of getting this thing registered.
Man, that's awesome. And what you're saying, it seems, I was looking at part of the studies too, they're more attracted to dried fish than anything?
Yes, we had to go through several different iterations to come up with a bait matrix. One of the more interesting parts was preferences in pigs, and we tried all kinds of things. We always compared it to whole shell corn, and it wasn't until we offered fresh bass that was caught here at the lake on the station, and the pig showed no preference until we got onto this dehydrated fish. Some work coming out of Texas, Parks and Wildlife said pigs are after calories. So we figured we just remove some water from the fish to increase caloric intake. And from that point on, the pigs went right to it. They will, the bait has been designed to where if there's a corn pile or a corn feeder, they will leave the corn, consume the bait, and then go back to eating the corn. So that's the direction that we took.
Sounds pretty dadgum awesome to me.
Well
Yeah.
thought out.
Yeah,
And
of course.
did I understand that you guys have been working on this for about 10 years?
Yeah, it's been about 8 to 10 years. They came to me. I'm a reproductive physiologist, so I'm used to artificial insemination and that sort of thing. And they were looking for somebody to head up these studies on pigs, and they asked me if I thought I could kill pigs. And I said, well, yeah, it shouldn't be a big issue. Turned out to be a bigger issue than I thought. And so it's taken us about 8 years to get to where we are right now. Once you go through the preference trials to figure out what they like, how do you incorporate it in a bait? And for a long time, sodium nitrite we thought had to be encapsulated, because if you take sodium nitrite, it's very hygroscopic, which means it will pull moisture from the air. So if you take a cup and put that much sodium nitrite in the bottom, especially in Louisiana and southern Mississippi, and set it outside, come back a couple hours later, the cup will be half full of water and the sodium nitrite will be dissolved. In that process, it converts to compounds that aren't as lethal. So we thought for a long time that we were going to have to encapsulate these little grains, and we tried that. We got so good at it that we could feed a pig 4 times the lethal dose and it wouldn't affect the pig. It'd go all the way through them. So at that point, I decided that it was probably out of my wheelhouse. So I contacted the Department of Chemistry on LSU's campus, Dr. John Poman. He was nice enough to get involved. They found out that if we shift that bait matrix, the matrix that holds the sodium nitrite, to the alkaline side, so it needs to be 7.5 on the pH scale or 8, the sodium nitrite doesn't convert, which was a game changer for us. At that point, we no longer had to encapsulated. And the pigs actually preferred that to the encapsulated sodium nitrite.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's
Fascinating.
interesting what you say
Yeah.
about the nitrite, because a lot of the nitrogenous fertilizers, if they're exposed to air, a chemical reaction takes place and,
Yes.
and a
They
bunch of
become
water
volatile.
forms.
Yep.
Right. That's correct. And for those of y'all that are familiar with livestock, and we have what you call nitrate poisoning, it happens with cattle. Basically, if you spill a bunch of ammonium nitrate or urea on the ground and they consume it, it can kill them. It's the same process that happens to the pigs, is when they consume the sodium nitrite, their blood can no longer carry oxygen. So basically, they just suffocate from the inside out.
And what about any residual effects to humans if they ate them afterwards?
Interestingly enough, we did some lethal LD90 trials, which was a trial to determine the lethal dose to kill 90% of the population, which is a standard in toxicant work. And we found it in pigs to be 188 parts per million. When we did the studies, and we went all the way up 210 parts per million, we killed pigs. So when you run it through the statistical database, it tells you that it's 188. The FDA says that humans can consume up to 200 parts per million in a finished human product. So basically, it takes less to kill a pig than we can consume and be all right, according to the FDA.
And this is pretty common preservative in bacon, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
Ironically.
If you had bacon this morning or sausage, you consume sodium nitrite.
Right.
Sodium nitrite.
and there's
How about that?
nitrates as well, but this is a nitrite, correct?
This is nitrite. That is correct. Not nitrate,
Okay.
nitrite.
I did a little study and supposedly we get about 80% of our intake just from eating vegetables, not even cured meats. You know how you
Is
see
that naturally occurring? You think it's through the
you know,
fertilization
like you can
process?
get bacon and it says no artificial preservatives. Well,
Right.
they're using like
Celery.
celery juice now because
It's a nitrate or a nitrite.
that I don't know.
I know it is
They
one, I think.
perform similarly.
So, Glenn, what about like raccoons or possums or even I'll say this: what bears? Is there any other critters that this is dangerous to?
Effective.
Sodium nitrite will kill any mammal at the right concentration. Interestingly enough, different species have different critical levels. We don't know what a bear is. Rabbits are 500 parts per million. Deer are about 207 parts per million. Pigs are 188. So within the bait design and the delivery system, we've tried to build in some safeguards to where when we put the thing on the landscape, we want to make sure we're delivering it to pigs. That's one reason we work real hard on getting them to leave the corn to consume the bait and then go back to eating the corn. So yes, it is detrimental to most mammals at the right concentration.
Yeah, but at least the wisdom of the fish, they consume it. But I would think that would be very rare for deer to
Yeah, I would.
ingest or eat or crave any of that. And quite a few actually, you know.
We have a captive whitetail on the station in Red Deer here at Ottawa Research Station, and we took baits that did not contain sodium nitrite but had everything else in it and put it in the feeders where they eat their feed, and the deer ate around them. They didn't even come close to them. Yeah, we did find out though that crows love it. So crows come in, anything that consumes fish. Raccoons would love it, bears would love it, that sort of thing.
Do you anticipate that it will come into effect as just a federal or state control thing? Will consumers be able to buy it? Will you have to get licensed to use it? I mean, what do you think? If you're just guessing, I know I'm asking you to.
If I was gonna guess, I would think at the very least you would need a private pesticide applicator's license to buy it.
Okay.
Probably more likely it's going to be a commercial pesticide license, but the regulatory agencies in each state will have to determine that.
Right.
So I'm sure a lot of our listeners right now are thinking, and some of us can't help it. Like, would it be okay if some other nest predators got it? And I'm assuming that's not going to pass muster with the feds. And so this delivery device, can you explain that more and how that works to keep the non-targets away?
Well, what we've developed here is basically a cellular-based system. It works very similar to the gates that they use to catch pigs. So a camera picture comes in on a corn pile or a wildlife feeder. If there's pigs there, you can text the machine. It will release a predetermined number of baits onto the landscape. And then basically you're going to have to go back out there and look afterwards to make sure there's none left on the landscape. There's some other groups working on sodium nitrite. They've run into some issues with bird kills, and the baits basically when they're consumed have little crumbs. Our bait is more the consistency of a gummy bear, and I hate to say that because somebody told me at one point that Harbro was going to call me and get on to me for comparing our toxic baits to but we built it that way on purpose so that you don't have a lot of crumbs falling off the edge when a pig eats it. So you can actually take this bait and bounce it. So whenever the bait goes out, there's going to be a label, and you're going to have to follow that label. And I tell everybody, now we're in Louisiana, we got the Louisiana black bear. The first time we kill a Louisiana black bear with this, Wildlife Services is going to pull it off the market, I'm sure. So people need to be very careful about how they apply this to pigs.
Wow. So if you had to, Bronson, are you still there? Well, I didn't forget about you.
Might have went fishing.
How exciting is this to you, Bronson? You're here in Mississippi, and this is one of the topics that you spend so much time talking about.
Yeah, exciting. And Glenn, as I've told you before, I'm so glad there are people like you willing to work on the unglamorous side of wildlife management and wildlife issues like this. So we really appreciate it. We started doing wild pig education events about 15 years ago. And I remember those very first meetings saying that we're probably 3 to 5 years away from having a toxicant, because it's literally been talked about for that long. But there have been so many issues like Glenn was talking about. It's not just coming up with a humane and effective toxicant. You got to think of the secondary issues and the non-target species. You got to think about the regulatory mechanisms and hoops you're going to have to go through. So it has really taken a long time to get to where we are. And as Glenn mentioned, there's the U.S. Department of Agriculture is also working on a similar sodium nitrite-based product and delivery system. And there's also a warfarin-based toxicant that it's not, it hasn't been labeled in any state yet, but there's hopefully 5 to 10 years from now, we're going to have a lot of different choices, options of what to do. So, Bobby, I guess I'll come back to where you started with the question. It's very exciting. Very happy that we have more tools in the toolbox. But I will say this, and I'm not going to shock Glenn, because when I say this, because he and I have talked about this isn't going to be a magic bullet. It's not going to be we've got a toxicant and we're going to do like USDA does with rabies and raccoons, where fixed-wing aircraft just flies and drops baits down throughout Alabama and Georgia, et cetera. It's not going to be like that. It's going to take a lot of time. You're going to have qualified people that are going to be able to deliver the toxicant. And the way I say it is it's just going to be yet another tool in our pig management toolbox.
So when I look, Glenn, when I look through your presentation, thank you, Bronson, it looked like it's something similar to this had been done on an island somewhere where there was a pig problem.
Yeah. I used that particular slide. I heard y'all talking before we started about hunting pigs, and there was an ATN scope, and people love it. I hunt them. I love it too. And there's a group of folks out there that are worried about losing those pigs to hunt as hunting opportunities.
Man, we got plenty around here.
I don't.
Sorry, folks.
Sorry.
There'll always be plenty for you.
But believe it or not, they like to ran me out of Grant Parish one night for giving this talk because they wanted to stop the toxicant work. But anyway, that slide is about Santiago Island, which is off the coast in the Pacific of South America. And it's probably 12 to 15 miles long and probably 4 miles wide. And they decided they were going to eradicate pigs on this island. And they did. They used shooting, they used trapping, they used poisons. And it took them 30 years to do it.
Wow.
So if you can imagine comparing that to North America, it's never going to happen.
No.
Like Bronson said,
years.
It's going to be a strategic tool to be used. I mean, think about rats. We've been poisoning rats for 50 years and we still have rats. It's going to be the same thing with pigs. We're not going to knock all the pigs out at one time.
Well, I kind of was hoping for a little bit different tone to this podcast.
Well, hey, it's a great tool, and we've been struggling. I mean, even trapping, shooting, like everybody said, nobody can get ahead of them. So anything we can put in our arsenal to help us, we got
beyond the news, breaking news about the toxicant and this, where we are on all that is, and you're talking to two people who have probably gathered as much data, whether it's numbers or just anecdotal, on hogs and all the situations going on there. So it'd probably be great to talk about that because they do know as of today what are some of the best things and techniques to use because just like for me, all I can do is my place. So I can work on that and it's, they'll be right back. But you can help, a lot by taking some out. Certainly
Absolutely.
relieve the pressure if they're not quite as dense. I mean, they're so smart. Usually if you give them much pressure, they kind of move on and,
become somebody else's problem.
I mean, for at least now. So, I mean, that's one thing to talk to them about because they're in the middle of all that, especially Bronson, the things that people are having success with today. So,
yep. Bronson, can you address some of that?
Yeah. So I guess it's, I think Glenn made a great comparison there with rats or anything like that.
Yeah, he did, actually.
Pigs are literally everywhere now in the South. And sure, in Louisiana, similarly, I think there's pretty much a lot of evidence there. There's at least a pig in every 82 counties in Mississippi. Some places a lot worse than others. And typically, when you start seeing success, it is people working together in a cooperative.
Yes.
So it's just very easy to imagine if you have 300 or 400 acres and you've got people all around you that are not doing anything to trap pigs or kill pigs in any way, you are never going to get rid of them. They are providing the refuge adjacent to you. And so we see now with programs, and there's a lot of programs, I'll let Glenn speak for Louisiana, but a lot of these programs are in common. We now have Wildlife Services aerial gunning programs. The Mississippi Department of Ag and Commerce, CS, has a pilot program as well in certain counties of Mississippi. So we're really trying to get the word out that it's a landscape level issue. Controlling pigs is not a 300-acre problem. It's a 3,000-acre problem or greater.
Yes.
And so it takes a lot of people and a lot of effort and a lot of time to be able to make some real tangible progress.
One thing I do tell people in other parts of the country that have never had them, and they say, I hear they're 10 miles away, I hear they're 5 miles. Oh, I saw the first one. I was like, whatever you do, get on top of it as soon as they show up, and you'll be so glad you did down the road. I think if you don't have them, you do not. The best term I've ever used, I still use it every day and talk about it. They are literally like a biblical plague. I can't imagine locusts was this bad. They're that bad. You just can't do anything, and they're so devastating, especially in the kind of terrain that's almost impossible to, find them and get them out of, and
Sure, like a swamp bomb,
yes.
like what we've got.
Impenetrable swamp type places. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, and I mean, they're showing. I recreate a lot on public land, and it's just exponentially how bad it's gotten in recent years. They're everywhere.
And not only are they everywhere, they're depleting the resource for the other species. Is
I grew up with them hunting on the lower Alabama River with Daddy in all those years, and they had them. But they trapped and they shot. But that was a feral pig that had gone wild, evidently, for a long time ago. Because that's 50 years ago they had them. These are different. They are, the density and the problem that they give is just. And guess what I'm getting at? Those hogs I grew up with could coexist okay with deer and turkeys and everything else. These don't. No. They take over everything. They destroy. They move to a location, wipe it all out, move on to the next. It's crazy. There's just so many, and you can't get ahead of them.
Yeah. So, Glenn, are you hearing stories like that? Obviously, your ear is in the wind of pig talk.
Yes, we hear the same thing in Louisiana. And part of the reason that where we are, number one, is the reproductive rate of these things. I mean, it's astronomical if you look at the numbers. But the other reason that we're where we are is because of people transporting pigs to different parts and releasing them to increase their hunter opportunity. And that's the reason that Louisiana passed the law that says basically it's illegal to transport feral swine. And any Leo can enforce that in Louisiana because once they're so adaptable. I've seen pictures. Bronson can speak on this. They'll survive well in the desert. And I've seen pictures of them in Canada in 2 feet of snow, just as fat as they can be.
Wow!
So they're very adaptable. So when you release them, they just basically take over.
Bronson, didn't something just get passed in Mississippi maybe in the last week or so?
Yeah, just like Glenn mentioned, it's now illegal to transport a non-domestic pig of any kind. So it kind of seems obvious for the last decade or so, it's been illegal to transport, quote, wild pigs or wild hogs. But the workaround that some people were using is, well, I'm taking it from point A to point B to feed it out. And so there absolutely are some people that are truly doing that. You know, they genuinely have a good purpose that they have caught a hog and they're going to take it to home or wherever and feed it out and eat it. But unfortunately, because that's the world we live in, that gets abused. And people were saying that, hey, that's what they're doing, when really what they were doing is they were releasing them somewhere else. So it's another case of where we have to have a law that applies to everybody, and it may hurt a few people that were going to do the right thing. But bottom line now is you cannot transport them whatsoever. There are no permits or anything. They're going to allow you to transport a wild-looking hog from point A to point B.
So, Bronson, would you help explain, and we may be just going into your opinion here, but I understand there's some states, like Missouri being one, that's not allowing their hunter population to specifically hunt wild pigs. And could you kind of explain that mindset, why they're thinking that?
This is one of those that it kind of gets into some psychology here, but we call it in the pig management world, we call it the Kansas model. And it's really only effective if you have an emerging population. Populations are just beginning to see evidence of them coming to or colonizing a particular state or county. And the logic is, what Kansas did is that they were not going to allow people to hunt wild hogs in Kansas to completely remove the incentive of people moving hogs to Kansas for the purpose of hunting. Does that make?
Yeah, well, I see.
I see what they're going. What they were going for sure.
And I'm not going to be one of these people moving and releasing wild pigs in Kansas. And so you have a lot of different places like that. Tennessee did that about a decade ago, and I think it helped. They were seeing wild pig populations pop up county to county throughout the state from west to east. And so they just made it illegal. You can no longer, as recreation, hunt wild pigs. So that removes the incentive of you moving them and releasing them. Now you sit back and say, well, what does a landowner do? Well, of course, in Tennessee, a landowner can still hunt them. A landowner has the right to do that, but it generally removes the incentive of people moving them around the landscape and turning them loose.
Yeah, man, I think about
and that's one that it's really hard for people to understand that.
Yeah. Well,
like you biologists and wildlife managers are saying, kill them, but you're taking away kind of the purpose of it, and it's really intended for places where populations are just starting.
Okay, that makes sense.
What I was going to say is one of the old tenets of wisdom from my dad would always say, be careful what you ask for, son, because you might get it. And I mean, those people doing this and moving them to an area have no idea what they're messing with.
Yeah.
And I say that not out of, like, I do detest them. I hate to use the word hate. I hate to use the word hate. But there's no seeking a balance with the bunch like we have. There's no balance. They completely turn the table upside down with all other things. And so that's why it's such a detriment to the environment. It's just unbelievable how destructive they are. If you don't have them, and I guess different terrains are different, and they're worse. And particularly the ones right around here at home, worse than anywhere. I've never seen anything. We got a lot of stuff taken away what we do as land managers, gamekeepers, as hunters and stuff, but I've never seen anything the destruction of what pigs do with nothing else.
So, hey, Glenn, can you, or Bronson, you either, but can y'all speak to the dollar amount nationally that they are attributing to wild pigs? Crop damage?
I think the last number I saw, it used to be $1.5 billion, but I think it's over $2 billion now, if I remember right.
That was just on me right there.
Yeah.
Damage.
That ain't counting how many turkeys they ran off. That's right. That's just crop damage.
And Sean Tanger, I think he works now up there with Bronson and them in Mississippi. He was an ag economist, did some work just in Louisiana. And in 2015, he reported that it cost Louisiana ag producers $75 million in damage from pigs. Now, we just got some more preliminary data this year, and it looks like it's going to be upwards of 80 to 85 million. So it is a large economic hit to these ag producers.
Landowners and producers, and I believe it's 16 states from, say, Texas to Virginia, they are getting surveys from the USDA. And that is from a perspective, the number Glenn mentioned a moment ago and we've used it for close to 2 decades now, $1.5 billion nationally. Everybody that's kind of in this world recognizes that as likely a vast underestimate.
Yes.
And what is interesting, I think something Toxie alluded to a moment ago, when we surveyed producers, what was really interesting to learn is that they can typically stomach the loss of bushels per acre. It's terrible that they lost an acre, 10 acres, whatever, of corn or soybean. But what was really most expensive was the infrastructure damage to the field, road, or for our rice farmers. And I've had so many people, when we're giving our educational events, they'll come up afterwards and say, and we made a huge mistake by not addressing it. And literally in just that amount of time, 3 to 5 years, if they go unchecked, it will devastate a property.
Yes.
Yeah, and we talk about all these numbers with crop damage, but what about the recreational value?
Well, not only that, I mean,
just the
wildlife. We're not
and
reforesting our oaks anymore out there.
Right.
There's so dense. They move and morph. They go to we got a lot of cropland around there. They'll hit that, and then when the acreage fall, they're so concentrated, and we're literally not seeing reforestation of those seed species. Anymore. They wipe out if there's any acorns at all, even if they're a couple of inches down in the mud, they root them up. They can smell them, and they'll keep on even into late spring. Something that might have germinated until the best I can tell, until it's germinated a couple of weeks, they'll still eat that too. Wow.
And think about all the grubs and insect larvae they're digging up and eating that turkeys should be eating. It's
so Glenn, can you when you look in your crystal ball, how long away do you think it is before this toxicant that you're working on might be made available?
Well, right now we're trying to work with the EPA to get some field trials off the ground, and there's all kinds of permits that are outrageous and expensive that are required. Once we get those done, and I'm hoping we're going to get those done in the next 6 to 8 months. My understanding is that is submitted to a peer-reviewed journal. When it's accepted, the data goes to the EPA. They review it. They've actually got 24 months, I think 2 years, to review the data and make a determination. Now, when the kaput bait hit the EPA, I don't think it took them 2 years. They did that pretty quick, and I would imagine that any poison that comes online is going to be looked at pretty quick because of the political pressure from folks wanting to do something about this. So my guess is it's probably going to be another 4 or 5 years maybe before something hits the mark. I think Texas is moving forward. Texas Parks and Wildlife with theirs, and they're saying it may be 2026 for theirs. So my guess is in the next probably 5 to 10 years, I'll go out 10 years, there's probably going to be multiple products on the market to help control feral pigs. The problem is it's 5 to 10 years away, and we got to deal with them during that amount of time.
That's why I brought up any advice the two of you had for the broader public. We're certainly all ears.
Right.
Wow. Well,
hey, Glenn, I've got a story to share with you. About 10 years ago, I used to show a slide from Louisiana that was from your state wildlife agency had shared from your annual harvest estimates, deer harvest, et cetera. And it was well over a decade ago, Louisiana hunters were harvesting more pigs than white-tailed deer. And when I was giving educational events here in Mississippi, I used to say, let's don't be like that. Let's get on top of this. And when I was doing that, it was estimated at that time, again, now we're going back 15 years, the estimates were Mississippi hunters were killing about 30,000 a year.
Right.
They were killing about 225,000 white-tailed deer.
Wow.
Right.
2 years ago, we became like Louisiana. We're now harvesting over 300,000 pigs in just recreational harvest. We are now harvesting in Mississippi more pigs than we are deer. So this is a really, really big deal.
Jim LaCour showed some numbers, Bronson, the other night at a talk that we gave. And I think last year in Louisiana, we killed over 600,000 pigs.
Wow.
Which was up from the previous year of 400,000. The problem is they estimate we have about 1 million to 1.2 million in the state, and we need to remove 75% of them to keep numbers static quo.
Wow.
So we're still way under where we need to be, but they are doing better as far as taking pigs out.
wow. Lenny, looks like you got a question.
Well, just a quick question, just wondering about the economics of it. Do you have any idea on a consumer level what this kind of stuff's going to cost?
The toxicant that we're working on?
Yeah.
I have not a clue what it's going to cost. It's very cheap for us to make on our side.
Good.
That's a good sign.
I can get 2 pounds of sodium nitrite for about $40.
All right.
And it takes 8 grams to kill a 100-pound hog, which we use in each one of our baits. The problem that you run into is I talked about the experimental use permit. So we're thinking we're probably going to have to get one. We may not. That permit for 2 years is $356,000.
Oh.
Once you get the permit and you do your work and you submit it, if you decide to register the chemical, you're looking at anywhere from 10 to 15 million just to register the chemical with the federal government. So, LSU, yeah,
y'all are LSU.
Yeah.
Take a little money out of the football program. And
hey, that's the guy from Auburn telling you, pointing his finger at you. Are you kidding me?
I think LSU's position is this: we're not interested in getting into the making and selling of pig toxicant. Probably what's going to happen is we're going to end up selling this package down the road after we show that it works.
Right.
And then another company will take it and run with it. So to answer your question, the ingredients are relatively cheap.
Mm-hmm.
The red tape you have to go is pretty expensive, so I couldn't begin to tell you how much it would cost.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So if I go catch a bunch of bass and dehydrate them and mix them with that 40 pounds of sodium nitrite, I mean, is there?
You just committed a felony.
I did. I got you.
Yeah, well, we need
Just
to
checking.
mark that time code,
Mark that
Richie.
time code, Richie.
That's like that's my farm
I want to get to work now.
So has any,
what
I don't want to wait.
That reminds me of when Gary was showing a fellow works for us the first days at the cabin.
Yeah.
And there's a big area in front. There's a bunch of wildflowers that my mom. So there's weeds and stuff in it too, but it's a beautiful little area right there. But the point being, it was like he was asking, where do I mow this? Where do I weed eat? Where do I do down the lake? Do I fish feeders? Just the ins and outs of being out there. And he said, that's kind of a grown up spot right there in front of that cabin. You need me to knock that down? He said, if you mess with that, you on your own, brother. That's Miss Evelyn's spot. So that's right. Laney, if you do that, you're on your own.
Yep.
hey, Glenn, Toxie raised his hand when he said y'all were doing some trials. I think he might want to
Put me in, coach, if I need to qualify for a spot.
Yeah, and our local wildlife refuge.
Yes.
Yeah.
You won't have a problem getting up that.
I have not a problem with people volunteering their places for these trials.
I
What
bet.
we're trying to do is convince them that it's limited field trials, so we don't have to pay the $356,000. And we're going to start right here on our research station and stay 300 yards from the property line.
Yeah, and I don't mind at all if y'all limit it to just my place. That'd be great.
So, Glenn, is there anything about this that we haven't asked you that you need to make sure that you speak to?
No, it's just one of those things. In people need to understand that it is going to be a toxicant, even though it's in our food, and we have it in bacon as a preservative and that sort of thing. They do need to realize that it is a toxicant, and it is toxic at certain levels to people and other animals. So we need to be very careful how we apply this, the one that we work it on or whichever one comes to market, because if it's done improperly, it's going to be a problem. We talked about the crumbles from the work that was done with the Texas group. And the problem with the crumbles is it doesn't, a little finch comes in and eats a little crumble. It doesn't take much to kill a finch.
Right. We can't have that
You
at
can't,
all.
that's not acceptable.
So do you think that maybe a little bit of a cottage industry might arise where people that maybe do animal damage control can specialize and get more? I would think they could command a pretty big premium if they get good at this, to go around, and they could be licensed, and that way you could make sure people were not misusing it. And I'd love for the public to be able to handle it however see fit, but I can see how that could get out, be dangerous or get out of control too. So it may emerge as like some of these animal damage control units that are kind of small, and people doing that now, trapping and all might get pretty lucrative for them if they do a good job.
Right. And that wouldn't surprise me. We had a group down here working on a feeder, and they were not interested in getting into the poisoning business, but they were going to lease their feeder to state agencies like Wildlife and Fisheries.
Right.
When something came online for them to take care of the poison.
So other question, and I thought this actually, who knows the rumors, but I thought this was coming out of Auburn or somewhere. But years ago, I heard they were on the verge of having a sterilant where it would at least, if the hog ate it, it would knock them out of their next menstrual cycle, at least doing that. And so if you were trapping and, you could maybe make a little progress instead of the rapid, so I don't know. It seems like that might be something you could fine tune. I know it's more complicated chemically, but you could fine tune and maybe it only affected hogs,
The problem with that is most of those treatments are transitory.
Wow.
Meaning that they last for a certain amount of time and then they wear off and the pig then becomes reproductively competent again.
Right.
So it's got to have to be something that's absolutely permanent for it to work.
Right. Well, I was just thinking at the time if they would make it, I guess if you made it, even what you're talking about with its drawbacks, if you made it where it was specific to pigs somehow chemically, that would be a signature enough to use. In combination with the trapping, you could actually knock them down from trapping more than you would on its own, especially if it gave you a little time. So, it might aid in that manner. But, and the other thing for as far as a marketing of the product, if it was ever fine-tuned to be safe and only targeting pigs, then you would keep selling it to people to keep their pigs sterile, So
Right.
that would be the key. I don't know how you do that. I'm not a chemist. But if you could get it targeted to pigs, that would be a big help, if it didn't affect them.
Now, Glenn, you're a reproductive specialist, aren't you? That might be in your wheelhouse.
Well, the problem is that pigs are so close to humans. I mean, we use pigs to produce organs and heart valves that we put in people. So the problem is you're going to have to get it in such a way that it's only affecting pigs, and then you have to worry about the domestic pig population.
Yes.
Now, in Louisiana, we don't have a whole lot, but I think if you go to Nebraska and some of those states, and I don't know what it is in Mississippi, but there's probably more pigs out there on a commercial basis. So there's things that you can do, but you have to be very, very careful. There is a school of thought about using some of these wildlife diseases that can be infected and given to pigs, and then pigs venereally pass those to each other that will work for sterilization. But up until this point, nobody's really been open to that idea of putting it on the landscape. And Bronson can probably speak more to that. But that would, if something like that came along and you could be assured that it stayed in the wild pig population, then people would need to worry about having pigs to shoot, because they're gonna pass that amongst themselves.
Is that like a venereal disease for pigs? Is that what I understand?
No, man.
Yep.
You're a pro.
That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. I know that's going to be dangerous. There are diseases such I know that I remember the great turkey biologist pioneer, Dr. Hurst, and he did all that groundbreaking research. And he had, I remember him showing me a graph one time, and it was about I thought he said a 7-year cycle in Mississippi where the raccoons population would grow, and then distemper, I think it was, would nail them. And I know it's different in different areas, but he said he could literally chart the success of those nests right in concert with, the 1 year trailing distemper every time, the cycles of the bed. Anyway, my point is, are there any natural diseases that are coming up on their own with hogs that might knock them in the head?
There are a few. The problem, though, you run into is people really don't want to introduce any more diseases into the wildlife landscape.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have to worry about the domestic pig production. Even if it's just for pigs, you have to protect those commercial pigs.
What I was asking is Mother Nature doing. I certainly am not going to be an advocate for introducing a disease. Now, that's out of my bailiwick anyway, but that's tenuous ground. I can see that going astray. And we don't know the ramifications till 10 years down the road. I was just wondering about, is there anything emerging in Mother Nature that, because, just like raccoons and distemper or rabies, whatever, what is their headwinds? Because I do remember the place we had in Macon for so long that all of a sudden they just disappeared about 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, we had a big rebirth in turkey population. Yeah. Now they're back thick again. But we never trapped them. We never hunted them back. Something happened naturally that knocked them out for, 4 or 5 years.
Sure did.
And we had a big burst in the turkey population. Now that they're back, there's not that many turkeys down there. And kill one in probably 3 years.
Bronson, you got a thought on that?
Yeah, so wild pigs do have some diseases, natural diseases. Pseudo-rabies is one. Swine brucellosis is one. USDA samples for those all the time, various influenza viruses as well. But unfortunately, they're not really enough to limit populations at any broad scale.
Right.
So like the example Toxie was mentioning, absolutely, that could be what happened, but it's not something permanent, and it's not something that we see over a very wide scale. But the biggest disease concern right now, we keep talking about the pork industry, is African swine fever. Has been documented, I believe, now in the Caribbean, and that is going to be a really, really big issue if that makes it to the mainland U.S. And so wild pigs could carry that, just like wild boar are in Europe, and that is going to be of great importance, a serious issue to the swine industry in North America if it makes the mainland of U.S.
Which is, again, not picking on pigs. I'm picking on them, but I'm not. It's like when they take everything over, they command the whole, every natural resource and take over, then they become so dense that a disease potentially spreading more rapidly is much greater. So they are just a ticking time bomb on so many aspects.
Plague.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. So Glenn, I think the whole world's cheering for you on this. I know they've got problems over in Europe with these things, and they look at them a little differently than we do. But look, Glenn, are you still there? We hadn't lost you, have we?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so look, when we have a guest, Bronson's done this numerous times. We like to ask them a few trivia questions, and then we're going to ask you 3, and if you get 2 of the 3 correct. One of our listeners, a guy named M.S. Stewart, who left a review on our podcast, is going to win a prize. So we don't want to put a lot of pressure on you, but let me just tell this story. Our COO, Asif, is the biggest LSU fan I know. So I texted him last night that we had a guest that was from LSU, and he got so excited, and he wanted to create the trivia questions. So these trivia questions were birthed by another LSU person. So Dudley's gonna ask you 3. You get 2 of the 3 right, and MS Stewart wins a prize.
You're gonna tell him he can phone a friend if he needs to.
Well, Bronson is your friend, and I don't think Bronson's gonna be much help on this one. But you can holler at somebody down the hall, though.
You never know.
I hope you're a big LSU fan based on the look of these questions. Okay, so number 1, this one looks a little tricky to me.
Of course, Asif wrote it.
What philosopher's quote? What philosopher's quote gave Shaquille O'Neal one of his nicknames? And the quote is, "We are what we repeatedly do." Okay, so was it Sophocles? Was it Nietzsche? Was it Aristotle? Or was it Plato?
I'm going to go with the first one.
All right, that one is wrong.
Oh, man.
I mean, why do we let Asif write the question?
It was Aristotle.
Yeah, well, maybe
I was just going to say that, but I didn't want to show off.
Well, he's got 2 to go.
Yeah, you got 2 to go.
Maybe give him what's the mascot?
All right.
All right, here we go.
What is the official team nickname of the LSU Tigers? Is it Bayou Bengal, Bayou Cats, Purple and Gold, or Fighting Tigers?
Fighting Tigers.
Ah, he got that one right.
Ring the bell.
I would have missed it. Wow, good for you.
Okay, so
all right,
here we go.
We got a prize.
Last but not least, what is Shaquille O'Neal's shoe size? Is it 22, 19, 24, or 18?
Now, think about this, because you could holler down the hall at somebody.
If you can use Google.
Well,
22, 19, 24, or 18?
Hold on.
I'm going to go with 22.
oh my goodness, he got it
You
right.
got it.
Nailed it.
That
You
sure
got-
did.
Good job.
You got 2 out of 3. So
Yeah, so MS Stewart, need to get in touch with us. You've won a fabulous prize. What he's won is a year's subscription to the Gamekeeper magazine.
oh, that's
Boom.
great.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, Bronson, I just wanted and everybody here at the table, thank you for joining us today. And you've got so much expertise in this subject matter. I'm sorry we don't have a question for you, but we exhausted all the questions we thought you could answer previously.
Well, I hope you have fun on the beach for the rest of the afternoon and don't have to do any more podcasts. I know you're a popular guy.
Yeah,
so
you are.
For sure.
I hope you can get back to your vacation.
Go catch a shark and scare everybody. That's what we like to do in the afternoons.
I will get back at it, but thank you guys. Appreciate
Thank you.
Thanks,
appreciate the
Bronson.
opportunity.
Thanks, Bronson.
Glenn, thank you so much for being here with us. And we sure what you're doing is super important, and we wish you all the best.
Yeah, thanks for the good
Is there
work.
is there a way folks can read his research? Is there a website or something you want to share with us?
Typically, when we were putting all this research together, we didn't spread it too wide because of patent implications and that
Right,
sort of thing.
right.
So there's no journal articles. You can go to our website, and there's some. We have a magazine called Louisiana Agriculture, and there's several articles on the LSU AG Center website, www.lsuagcenter.com, where you can actually see some of the articles and how we've developed things over the years.
No, that sounds good. Well, I would encourage people to do that. This sounds like at least you guys are trying. That's
I've got my pom-poms cheering for them.
Absolutely. We need a better solution.
Yes.
It's a bright spot on the horizon for us.
The world appreciates what you're doing. So is there anybody you want to say hello to before we let you go?
Hey, Bronson.
There you go.
Good to talk to you.
That's awesome.
That's right.
All right, Glenn. Thank you so much for being on here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank y'all.
Yes,
Appreciate it,
sir.
Glenn.
All right. So, guys, what did we learn?
There's
about all
hope.
that stuff. Yeah.
There's
But
hope.
it's a complicated issue.
Yeah, it is.
You know.
And it sounds like it's going to be a few years before it's available on a consumer level. But at least there's something, finally in the works for us. So I'm excited.
Yeah, we've been hearing about it a while.
Yeah.
I just
for
kinda
several years. It's nice to be able to actually
No,
share
it's
some
coming.
of it with folks.
And I didn't really, but I think it's going to kill coons. I mean, I just don't know if that's right.
Yeah, but that's the problem. If it doesn't, we want to think that it targets some other stuff we want to, but I'm sure they're going to prevent it. They're going to let EPA probably
that would
let
not
it
be
get
a
out.
good look for the overall public.
No.
Well,
Mark that time code. Rick.
yeah, and bears too.
Hey, the good thing is out of my hands, and I'm steered way clear of any of this stuff.
Yeah.
We get about it. It is very, very frustrating about the hogs. But, I feel like from listening to them, I kind of said that already, that this kind of little cottage industry thing might emerge. And that might be just the first time he mentioned it, that there's a lot of different things going on. But this is the first time that I've actually known of people calling in Alabama, because actually I text Chuck Sykes about it, because there was someone had talked to Greg and Tom about they were flying helicopters in Sumter County. Could they shoot some on us too? I was like, I want to make sure that's legit. And I checked with him. Oh, yeah, that's legit. We're having that done. And he mentioned, I can't remember the name of a group that was doing it, that was sanctioned by the state or whatever. And I remember David Hawley talking about they took out like 300 on some clear cut on somebody.
Nice.
From a helicopter or something like that.
Wow.
Some such number. But I think they got maybe a dozen. We got our timber so tall on the place, it's hard for them to see them. But I think he said they've reported back to them, said they killed like 12, maybe something like that.
Wow.
You talk about the industry around it too. Just looking at some of his research, they've developed specialized feeders with cameras on them, so you can tell what's feeding. And then you actually, from what I was reading, you would hit the button and drop the bait right there in front of them remotely. So kind of interesting to what the other products that'll get developed around it. It's not just you're not just going to be able to pour it on the ground.
It's not going to be cheap.
Yeah, you're just not going to be able to pour it on the ground and walk away. It doesn't sound like.
No, but it's when you're dealing with the other lesson. Always learn, no matter what, is when you're dealing with Mother Nature, you have to be so careful.
Absolutely.
And so it's you gotta. I see I hear these Asian beetles. They're like not actually ladybugs, but they look like them.
Oh yeah, we've got them all.
Asian ladybird beetles.
They are a epidemic now.
Yeah, they are.
And we've had everything known to man from the pest control people. Evidently, they were brought in to control like an aphid for cotton or something.
Is there anything that we have brought over here from another country with good intentions that has turned out with good results?
I don't know that there is, but I'm sure there is. But to Dudley's point, not very many, I don't think.
Yeah, so
except for
it just goes to show we need to quit experimenting with that kind of stuff.
Just be careful.
So they infect y'all's cabin, is that right?
Yeah, for some reason, and they leave eggs, I guess, in every fall all the way through the winter. I can literally go in and vacuum 1,000.
Yeah.
On the south wall where it's hotter in the winter.
They get in your shooting houses.
Yeah. But this is unbelievable. I would vacuum 1,000 more.
They'll get in your car.
By that evening, there'll be that many back.
Wow.
Crawling in, dying. And so I don't know what or why, but that one particular place is really infested with them. And it's a major problem.
Yep.
And these things actually bite. It's not bad, but they land on you. They bite.
Yeah. They'll bite you.
Wow. We'll have to talk to Bronson about that. He might know something.
There he is right there.
Or an entomologist.
I never thought about the word pesticide. I always think about that as bugs, but
yeah,
pesticide is a pest.
Well, did anybody notice that you can't spell toxicant without toxi?
My name has an EY. So
Yeah, no, almost.
You got the
T-O-X.
Guess what, Bobby? You can't spell intoxicated either. So.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Well, so guys, we learned a lot. That was very interesting, and so there is hope.
Yep, there's
Yes.
hope. There's a glimmer of light out there. So.
Yeah, it is. So I wanted to remind everybody our television show started a couple of weeks ago on Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock on Central Time. What is that Eastern Time, Lanny?
Central Time, that would be what time?
8 o'clock Central.
7
8 o'clock Central.
Just like the anchor spot we've been for 20 years, I bet.
Yep, that's
On the country.
Tune on in.
9 o'clock Eastern.
that
There you
would
go.
be
8
correct.
o'clock.
Thank you.
8 o'clock Central.
Thank you, Richie. Richie's the man, maestro behind the TV
He
show
is.
too. Not only the podcast guru, but
Great job so far.
yeah,
Richie, the producer.
Richie the producer.
That's
there he
him.
is.
Yep, he's done and look, Richie has lost a lot of weight.
I'm telling
He's
you,
looking
I'm trying to
fantastic.
feed him every time he comes on. But the back glass of his truck is just taking a whooping. I don't know what he's doing to it.
I think he's rough on everything.
Yeah, he's rough back there.
I'm glad you pick on somebody besides me, Bobby.
I got a kick out of that. So his back glass came out, and he duct taped a piece of cardboard
Yeah.
over it.
There you
But
go.
he had a Gamekeeper
drew.
sticker on his windshield, so he drew it
Drew
with a
the
Sharpie.
Gamekeeper. Oh,
No. I did not draw that.
Oh,
McElwain.
Somebody's and not fessing up to it drew it, and
I had to.
Bobby did it.
And I wrote TV producer underneath.
Jethro Bodine.
Yeah. So, all right, that was fun.
I've got an announcement.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, go ahead.
Okay, so
Oh, we got Ask Dudley. I
and
didn't-
Ask Dudley.
Yeah, go ahead.
So before Ask Dudley, the announcement I have is on September 15th, we have the Foxhole Shootout.
That's right.
It's a huge deal. Traditionally, it's coincided with our Mossy Oak Properties National Convention. And this year, it does not. And so we're encouraging a lot more of the public to come to this. And if you feel called to donate something for our raffles, et cetera, that would be great too. I want to say we've averaged donating roughly $150,000 a year.
Yeah, to
St.
St. Jude and Catch a Dream.
And Catch a
Yep.
Dream and Soul as
That's right.
well.
Yep. The law enforcement support
But
stuff.
it's a golf tournament, and then we have a cooking event where chefs,
Next
big-
to none cooking event.
big time chefs
Oh,
from
gosh.
all over the world.
It's incredible.
show up.
I would say it's the finest meal you're gonna find around here the whole year.
It's amazing.
Live fire. Cooking
Live
over
fire,
live
a
fire.
lot
fire
of wild
cooking.
game. I think we got elk on the menu. There's all kind of stuff that's going to
I
be.
mean, the
on menu
auction
this year.
is insane from hunts and
first class
things
event.
all over the place.
We're going to have a tournament at the Mossy Oak Golf Course, of course.
Yeah,
and
little
Waverly.
golf, little
That's a big
celebration.
deal. Yep.
So if you want to learn more about it, there's a website, foxholeshootout.com. We'll all be volunteering and helping cooking and stuff, and we'd
Bobby
love
will
to
be
have
waiting
you guys
tables.
participate.
Yeah, I'm going to be parking cars this year.
There we
Yeah.
go.
That's what I
Oh, you
asked
moved
to
on
do.
up.
Yeah.
I like
Sure
it.
did.
I just follow Vandy around and let him tell me what to do, but it's a lot of fun. So I guess that's it.
Cool.
As far as the Ask Dudley segment, I thought I would share something a little bit different. I had a listener email me the other day. We were talking about like this Merlin Bird ID app, and there's some
thing's so
other
fun.
apps out there.
Yeah.
Like Toxie was talking about Picture This. On some of the newer iPhones, if you have upgraded your phone recently, all you have to do is take a photo of a plant or pull a plant photo off of anything. If it's sitting here in your photos, you just go and click on it or take a photo, and then you go to your gallery and click on it, and then you click that little I that stands for information, and then you click look up plant. And I've done this on 7 or 8 pretty difficult odd species, and it's nailed it every single time.
That dadgum AI, boy, y'all look out.
And
That's right. But
and
it's
it's
probably
free.
got the latest. Yeah. That's a
So-
great tip. So I guess the difficult part is if species look so close,
Right.
it might trick it.
Well,
But-
at least you can get to the genus and
That's-
start learning how to
well, not
keep.
only that, you're telling me that it's stuff that you almost never heard of that's pretty rare, and it has all that contained. That's pretty big.
Right. I took some pictures of some silphiums, like the compass plants.
Right, yeah.
Kind of rarish prairie species.
I might have to get a new phone.
So
I have a new phone, so I'm fixing to go check that out as soon as we get out of here.
So anyway,
there it is.
That's about it.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that really is. That's helpful to people.
That's right.
Yeah, it sure is. So, Laney, have you got anything?
Man, just pumped. We got some hog solutions coming out there.
Yeah, Toxie, don't forget that Stanley thermos.
I've got it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's got my name on it.
All right, guys. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Richie, you got anything you need to? We appreciate you being here and working the buttons.
Doing what
there,
you do.
Richie.
That's right.
And watch the TV show,
Producer
guys. We work really hard on that. So, all right. Why don't you say goodbye, Dudley?
Goodbye, Dudley.
Where's Mac? Who's going to get us out of here? Get us out of here, Richie.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast. And be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.